Okay, so Dylan's got her welded in place here. You just kind of tack this edge a few places, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then just stitch it in.
Yeah. So then he ground his welds off on the two corners here. We'll finish this up later. But next he'll make this piece, and it will lay over top of it. You'll make it longer here, and once you get that made and fit in place, then you can go ahead and weld it, and then weld it around the whole perimeter and grind all this stuff off. And this is going to look like a factory.
Oh yeah.
Factory fit there. Be pretty nice. So, okay, so Dylan's working on the door, and you got your piece welded in here, and then you started this extra piece on the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you still have to grind this area down. We talked about that before. And this new piece that you put in here, it looks like you're off a little bit here and here. So I'm not sure how you plan on getting that trimmed up. Let me get a marker here. So what's your plan?
Might just take a straight edge and line this up and see like how wide this is, and then just mark the distance we need for that.
Yeah, so the problem you're going to have is you got this piece laying underneath that. So when you do the next one, when you do this door, you want to make sure that you're spot on these two places here, because if you don't, you're going to have a lot more work cleaning this up, right? Unfortunately, you've got this outside welded already here. Otherwise, if it was just tacked in place, I would have just told you to grind those off and relocate that. But if you see the edge of this, see how jagged it is? Again, that's going to be a problem, because you've got to go in and try to create this nice straight edge like the factory was. You see what I'm saying? And you might be able to take a cutoff wheel in here and slowly grind this down without touching too much of that bottom piece. And same with this, that needs cleaned up a little bit. It shouldn't be quite that tight. So I'm not sure exactly what's going to be the easiest. I'd try probably cleaning this up first. If it looks like that's going to be a problem to get that cleaned up, you might want to just grind the edge off and get rid of that piece and start over. Okay. But the key is, Dylan, is making sure when you start, like this piece, if you had this, if it wasn't welded in place, I would tack it here. Then I would come over here and get those two pieces tacked together. If this is pulling in, there's a problem. You know, you should be able to, as small as that material is there, you should be able to pull that out so it's lined up. The outside's going to be easy to grind down, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the inside's where you're going to have a problem. So I would try to straighten that up first, and then let's take it from there, okay? On this piece here, we talked about you're going to knock that down. But there's a guy on YouTube made a comment that was the antenna hole. It wasn't the antenna hole that we patched in. The antenna goes up, goes right here. This was a hole that was blown in there. If you remember, it was just blown in. It
wasn't very clean.
No, it was a torch. Somebody torched a hole through there so they could access this bolt that was right here. Right here's the antenna hole. You can see, you see this extra structure down here? That's where the antenna goes through. Yeah. Which is right there.
Yeah, not over here.
So anyway, I just wanted to clarify that because the guy said we just filled in the antenna hole. Okay, Dylan, how you doing on this?
Pretty good. I just got it all grinded down and pretty smooth.
Looks like you got a little offset here, but yeah, that looks pretty good. So next time, what'd you learn on this one?
To stay on this side and keep this
inside
space.
Yeah. So we want to keep this inside contour, or the edge of it nice and clean. Concentrate on that, and you can hang this out wherever you need to here, because this is a lot easier to trim up. Use the file and some other things down in here, which worked. It looks good. So this is ready to epoxy, and probably skim coat some of this later on. Epoxy it, and we'll hang it on the car then. Good job. So we just made this panel for this one now. He's got this all cut out, cleaned up, and then there's the new one. We made that in 15-20 minutes. So Dylan's wanting to try to open up a shop now, mass produce these for guys. So anyway, next thing he'll weld this in, and this one will be, this door will be wrapped up too. So, okay, Dylan, we want to replace these hinge pins in all 4 hinges. Okay, and this is a kit that comes, and you can see it's got bushings in here, bushings, and then a pin, and the pin's the same length. And you can see the reason we need to do it. See how these are wore out?
A lot of play in them.
Yeah, and there's four hinges, top and bottom. See, these are really bad. But you can see these are original. They've got the stamping still in there, so we want to keep these instead of buying new hinges. Okay, so what we want to do to start with is, you'll notice the pin goes in. You want to mark this. Okay, so let's get a marker. So I would put top and top here, and this is the top when I'm referring to top of pin, not top of hinge. So you'll notice these are put in the same way, but when you put them on the car, one is actually upside down.
Yeah, it'll be opposite.
Yeah. So we want to make sure that you mark those before you pull them out. Do one at a time, and then put them together. So what you'll do is, you'll see this has got a little, I don't know, they took a chisel and put that point on there so that this can't slide out. So you want to cut that off right here, and then put it in the vise, drive that out, and then put the new one in right away. And you notice how the brass fittings, or the brass
on the inside of that other piece.
Yeah. So those go down into this piece. So you want to put them in from the outside.
And then put the rod in.
Then put the rod in, and make sure that you have this orientation all correct when you put it together.
Okay.
Because you could accidentally turn it upside down if you don't mark everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see what you mean.
So put it in the vise, cut that off, put it in the vise, drive that pin out, put the new pin in, and the new bushings, and then once you get those in, we're going to take and we'll put them in here in a vise, and we'll try to recreate that. Okay. With the chisel, so it looks like it was factory. All right.
Cool.
Okay, Dylan, where you at on these doors?
I just got all these patches welded in and finally smoothed down.
So you're done with them.
Yeah, we just need to filler and epoxy it.
Yeah, so we'll epoxy it. I think next thing we'll do is hang these doors before we epoxy it, because we're probably going to have to tap on these to get them lined up, and we may have to do a little welding yet. So if we epoxy them, we're just going to burn it back off. So you got the back. Here's the back. Those look really good. Got the stock look to the edge here. I think those turned out really good. Layer of epoxy and some high build primer, maybe a slight skim coat, and we'll be good. So next what we'll do is we're going to put the hinges on, and so he's got these all rebuilt, new bushings and pins, and then we sprayed the back side of it. We didn't get a chance to epoxy these, So we just put some primer on the back side, and that'll protect it somewhat, and we'll epoxy them all after we put them on. So go ahead and get these mounted on both sides, and then what we'll do is we're going to lower this. We're going to put some jack stands in here. All right, we're going to drop this down, put jack stands under where it would normally set on the suspension. So we got one up here, and then we're going to do one right in the center back here. And we're going to drop the rotisserie. We'll take the hydraulic part of it all the way down, okay? And then once we get that down, we'll lower this part. We'll mark it where we're at right now, because that's basically pretty well balanced.
Yeah.
But we'll drop this, crank this down, and I would get it down probably, see, these go in 24 inches, okay? So I would take this down maybe 12 inches or so, and then you get another 7 or 8 here. Hopefully that'll get us about to the height we want. Maybe, I don't know, 20 inches off the ground, 24 inches off the floor, something like that, okay? So we can work on it. Then we're going to put the doors on, get them all lined up good. We'll put the fenders on, put the hood on, get everything mocked up, get all our metal work done, and then we'll take it apart and epoxy it. So, any questions? Good to go? Okay.